let's get on with the
2357
show.
is Liz.
Okay, folks.
Yeah, that's me. That's Liz Colton.
Oh, Liz, what's happening, girl?
Hey, Larry, how's it going?
It's going, girl.
Good.
All right. Are we all ready? Well, folks, let me introduce FPR, the one and only. Here's Kevin. So Kevin's going to talk about his journey into his world of fountain pens. And then we got a lot to talk about and a lot of cool things to show you. So are you ready, Kevin? It's your show. Take it away, sir.
Yeah, where do you want me to start? You want me to start with how we got started?
Yeah, start how you got started.
You want the long version or the short version?
I'll do the short.
Short version. All right. Well, back in around 2009, I was living overseas. I was living in India, and I was working on my handwriting. And so got my very first fountain pen, never written with one before then, instantly fell in love. I've always been a pen guy, you know, picky about what kind of pens I used. And so from the moment I picked it up, loved it. Got into fountain pens, and somebody contacted me and said, hey, you know, I see you're living in India. I'd love to get some Indian made pens. I didn't even know that was a thing. I'd been hanging out on Fountain Pen Network, right? So I said, yeah, I'll do a scavenger hunt and go to some stationery shops or whatever and try to find you know, what you're looking for. And started looking for these pens, and then started selling them on Fountain Pen Network, and you know, eventually decided, you know, what if I just started a website? And because you can't find these Indian pen brands anywhere. Like, it's not like everybody's looking for them, but if you wanted to get a Camlin, or back in the day at Shell Park, a lot of these brands that don't even exist anymore, you know, you just couldn't find them. So I was the only website in the world that was selling these pens, so people outside of India could get them. And you know, the deal is the pen industry in India was really struggling. And so the more I interacted with these manufacturers, they said, well, you know, we'd love to sell you more stuff. And I said, well, hey, you guys make a bunch of eyedropper pens. You know, that's really not very popular in the States and in Western countries. There's some people that want eyedropper, but you know, piston filled would be awesome. Or we do something cartridge converter, and they'd say, hey, we'll help you build whatever you want, you know. And so then we started getting into sort of building our own line of pens, and just sort of went from there. It was a hobby, side hustle, something to make a little extra money to, you know, help the kids do whatever, go on family vacations up until 2017. Then in 2017, we took it full time. And never looked back. Now I got a little brick and mortar here in Plano, Texas. You know, do the vast majority of our stuff online, but do have a little store that folks can come to. And so that's sort of the story.
All right. What was the first pen that you had made?
Yeah. God, let me try to remember back. Back in the day, I was working with a company called Surwex. They were really one of the first companies I worked closely with. And I'm thinking it might have been the Guru, but I think maybe the Dilly came out. There's an old pen called the Dilly I worked with another company on. I'm not even going to mention their name because that company was not a good company. But I worked with a Surwex pen company, and they produced a pen called the 162. And that's the original mold that we built the FPR Guru off of. The first pen that we designed really from the ground up. So the Guru, we just made some adjustments to the mold of a pen that was already manufactured, and that's something we do some. The first pen we really designed from the ground up was the FPR Jaipur. And man, the story of that was crazy. I wish you guys could have seen it. Like literally, I'm in India, and I'm working with the mold maker for the Surwex pen company. And what I've done is I've cannibalized, like, you know, 6 different pens and put together all the different sort of parts that I want and take it to this mold maker who doesn't speak English. He speaks Urdu, and I don't speak any Urdu. And so I've got the Surwex guys who are translating, and we're not having conversations about millimeters or tenths of millimeters or microns. He's like, so this should be, again, in a whole nother language. So this should be about a hair wider. And I'm like, you know, what's a hair? So it took us like, gosh, it probably took a full year of going back and forth with this mold maker, you know, and built that pen from the ground up. So we sort of do both things. We'll either take an existing product and ask a manufacturer to help us modify it, you know, or we'll sort of design something from the ground up.
So are the pens made under your specifications? Isn't that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. Right. So, and again, it could go either way. Sometimes I'll, you know, hey, here's an idea, you know, hey, help me build this. But sometimes it'll happen in reverse, right? A manufacturer I'm working with will say, hey, I've got an idea for something I think you really like. Let me send it to you. And I'll take a look and say, okay, I do like that, or I don't like that. Usually it's, you know, I either don't like that or I do like that, but we're going to have to change these 3 things. You know, I want it a little more like this, a little more like that. And we eventually work it out where it's to the specifications that I want it to be to put the FPR stamp on it.
Cool. So what kind of material do y'all use making your pens?
You know, back in the day, it was all that injection molded resin. You know, Indian resin always has a little bit of a scent to it. I don't know why that's true,
Yeah.
but it is. Then we started getting into ebonite and acrylic. You know, and the Jaipur V2, the Himalaya pens, you know, all ebonite and acrylic, the Trevani pens. Now we've gotten into a little bit more metal, which is really something that's been missing from the lineup, right? Like most of our pens are pretty light because that injection molded resin is light, acrylic is lightweight, ebonite's lightweight, you know, unless you add some metal to the internals of the pen or something, they're just very light pens, which doesn't bother me, but some people prefer a heavier pen, right? So we've started to try to get into metal body designs a little bit more just to sort of round out the lineup, right? So we've got the quick draw that's metal. We've got the new ambassador pen that's metal, has a little more weight to it.
So how did you come up with the name Quick Draw?
You know, we pick our names these days. Honestly, what I'll do is I'll put out a Facebook post and send out an email asking for you know, customer input. What should we name this pen? Sorry, I'm trying to put my phone on silent here. And I'll get back, you know, hundreds of suggestions. And so I take those suggestions and narrow it down to maybe my top 25, 30 choices, and literally just sit down with the family. And all right, we're about to vote. Everybody vote. What's your top pick? We'll narrow it down to 3 or 4. And then, you know, everybody will revote from there and literally come up with the name. I know that's not very scientific or whatever, but it's a lot of fun. So yeah, Quick Draw, you know, there was, you know, 150 suggestions of names, probably. I narrowed it down to 20, 30, and the family chose Quick Draw.
Okay, tell the folks the pens that they are able to take completely apart and put back together. It's very easy, and you also have videos on your website how to do this.
Yeah, pretty much everything we have is completely disassemblable. Now a cartridge converter pen is almost always fully, you know, disassemblable, right? You can, you know, nibs and feeds are normally friction fit within your grip section, right? So you can pull those out on a cartridge converter. But also all of our piston filled pens are fully, they call it clutchless. I've never known what that word means, but it means you can take it apart. Right. So I've got the Jaipur V2, you know, you just unscrew that piston unit and just pull it. It's hard to do this stuff on camera and pay attention, you know, pull it right out of the pen. You can also unscrew the nib unit on that pen.
Yeah, I like that. That's slick.
Right. So you've just got the whole, you know,
right.
Just the empty barrel. You can pull the nib and feed out of the nib unit,
right.
you know, and scrub it. So at the end, you get all sorts of parts lying around. But yeah, it makes it easy to fully clean them, you know.
What is the most popular pen that sells at your place most?
For the last few years, it's been the Himalaya.
Himalaya.
You know, we came out of the Himalaya V1 and then eventually upgraded to the Himalaya V2 with that bigger number 6 nib and the twistable converter, and so that push-pull style that people like better. So the Himalaya V2 is our best-selling pen. The Jaipur V2 is starting to catch up to it. I like the Jaipur V2 better myself just because I prefer that piston-filled design, and I like that the nib units are screw-in instead of friction fit. If you start tinkering, you know, trying to swap nibs and feeds on the Himalaya, it just takes a little bit of tinkering. So it's a lot easier to just buy your screw-in nib unit and put that in the Jaipur V2. But yeah, the Himalaya V2 has been our best-selling pen for the last few years anyway.
John, did you have a question?
Hi, everybody. This is my first time doing this. I'm actually a school teacher. Larry,
John, how you doing, brother? Yeah, okay.
How you doing, man? Yeah. I'm on vacation now, so this is my way of relaxing, you know. I was just wondering, the Quick Draw, is that a reference to Quick Draw McGraw?
Yeah, I've said that.
If you want it to be, then it is. I think the customer who suggested it was referencing how, you know, it's magnetic. It's a magnetic pen cap, so it just, you know, it's easier to get off even than the snap-on caps because you don't even have to really pull it. It's just a quick magnet. So, but I like that. Let's say that it's a reference to Quick Draw McGraw.
Okay.
Hey, what I like about that Jaipur too, it has that little ink window with it, so that's pretty cool as well. Yeah. So you've made these pens affordable, really. So people that don't have a lot of money or on a strict budget, they can buy your pens. And they're a decent fountain pen, I think, anyway. So
Yeah, that's what, that's sort of my passion getting started is, I bought a cheap fountain pen early on and then started researching fountain pens. I was like, oh, I'm not the type of guy who spends $200 on a pen. I mean, to be honest, this is embarrassing since I run a pen store, but on a personal pen, I don't think I've ever spent more than $50. Now, I own pens that are worth more than that, right? I've got them secondhand or I restored them or whatever, but I don't think I've ever spent more than $50 on a pen for myself. For me, they're more of a tool. If I don't have a pen inked in my rotation, I'm not trying to collect it or something. They're a tool for me. I enjoy using them, right? I'm more of a user than a collector. And so as I started researching, I was like, man, I want to spend $100, $200. Why is there not a source out there of more affordable, but still good quality stuff? And that's sort of what got me into this whole thing.
Let's see, the first pen you have, what is that first pen you have that's really low priced? What's it called? And how much is that one? The lowest one you got, what is it? What? $8, $9?
Yeah, you can get that free pen that we sent out, the FPR Move, for $7, but the Guru is $9. That's probably about the least
expensive. Let's talk about the Guru for $9. Okay. Sure. What I tried to explain to people, you're getting a $9 pen, okay? $9. We're not talking 150. We're not talking 80. Blah blah blah. $9, and you're getting a pretty decent pen. And let's say, it does it right. It skips. It leaks ink. It does that. I said, have you got in contact with Kevin? No. I said, well, the first step to do is contact Kevin, and he will walk you through it. He will correct the problem. He will make it right. Problem solved. $9. It's a win-win, and it does right nicely. You'll love it after you figure out what's wrong with it, and he'll tell you. You just follow his instructions, and you're going to fix it. But he'll stand behind any of his products he sells. Cool.
Yeah, I think we rarely have a customer walks away mad if they will contact me. I'm always sort of disappointed when somebody just like leaves a review. Hey, the pen doesn't work. Which is fine. It's a valid review, but I'm like, well, hey, talk to me about it. I'll probably send you a new one, or we can figure out how to fix it or whatever. So yeah, I think if a customer will contact me, I rarely have somebody walk away disappointed because they're going to get the replacement parts they need, or, sometimes it is your user error. Here's a simple mistake you made, just do this instead of that, or, a whole new product if there's a defect or whatever.
Okay, let's talk about some nibs. Who makes the nibs? Whose idea? How did all this get started? Where? Give us the full input on this nib thing.
Yeah, we still mostly use manufacturers in India for most of our stuff. Again, that's where we got started, and our nibs are all still made in India. There's a nib manufacturer. I guess I'll let them remain nameless. If you could probably figure it out if you wanted to. I started off with a company in Delhi. Again, the company I said I wasn't going to mention earlier that I'm not a big fan of, wasn't a big fan of working with. And then tried out a different company. Eventually found one that I really liked. Who was, again, the pen industry was struggling. So I came in and said, hey, could I, and initially when we're small, can I order 100 of these? Can I order 200? Can I order 300? Hey, yeah, we're willing to let you get started in those lower quantities. And now we're obviously ordering a lot larger quantity than that. Of course, the Flex nib is the most popular thing that we, ever came out with. And then when we launched the Ultraflex, which was, oh gosh, what have been doing that for a couple of years, or maybe it's been 3. I don't know how long.
Maybe 3.
Been. Yeah, maybe it's been closer to 3 years, and that got really popular. In the beginning, boy, it was taking me forever to grind each one of those nibs, and boy, I've gotten fast at it now. But yeah, that's really been a popular product.
And also, you now have the gold nib now.
Yeah, we do.
Lineup, yeah.
Yeah, so you can get the number 6 size or number 5.5 size, and most of our pens, we don't offer the gold nib in everything, but the majority of the pens you can get a gold nib in. So
are you ever going to make a larger nib, like a size 8?
I'm always open to new ideas. And a lot of times I am limited by the capacity, the capability of the manufacturers I'm working with. I'm certainly open to the idea.
Yeah, people have been asking, is he going to make a larger nib, a heavier pen? And I said, well, I'll ask him when we do the Zoom. So I'm asking, and you're telling there. Okay.
Yeah, we don't have anything in the works right now for a larger nib. But again, like I said, sometimes I'll ask the manufacturer, "Hey, do you have this?" Sometimes they'll contact me and say, "Hey, I've got a new idea. There's something new we're able to produce. Would you be interested in it?" I would be very open to the idea of something with a larger nib.
Okay, now another question is, now you finally are collaborating with Japan, one of their pen folks out there. Tell us about how this came about.
Yeah, it's sort of interesting now that we've sort of grown a little bit. I guess maybe we're just getting noticed a little bit more, right? So back in the day, I was out trying to find, who can help me make this, who can help me make that. And now from time to time, I'll have a manufacturer contact me and say, "Hey, I wonder if we could collaborate on something." So I had this Japanese company contact me and say, "Hey, we've sort of got a higher end line of stuff. But we're able to manufacture stuff that we think would fit your lineup well. Would you be interested in talking?" And I was like, "Well, hey, I'm always interested in talking. It's not uncommon for a company to contact me and say, 'Hey, can we send you some samples?' And it rarely is a good idea or a good fit. But this company contacted me and said, 'Hey, you think we could collaborate?' And I was really pleased with the build quality. They're the ones making that Tenoshi. You mentioned the Urushi art version, but it also has
since you already did that, hold it up and Frank, go ahead and show it. We're going to show you a close-up of this. Here we go.
Yeah, I guess you were talking about it before we were actually on the video. So this is the Urushi art version of I wish that was a little clearer. It's just harder in video.
We're going to do it on my side in a minute. Yeah, go ahead.
The Urushi art version of the Tenoshi pen. So it's a Tenoshi body, but it's Urushi art finished. And so they're the company that's helping us produce that pen.
Frank, do it again now so we can get another shot of this. Here we go again, folks. It's a pen you need to really look at. I think Frank's going to do it wherever he did it. Hello, Frank.
There you go.
Now, all right, let's take a real good look at this pen, because this pen is really a stunning fountain pen. Check it out. Check out the detail in this pen. Check out the full detail. Look at that head of that snake. I mean, he's got 3 other different patterns as well. Beautiful, gorgeous pen. And we'll turn it back right side up. I like that little ball that he has right here on the clip, and the large band, and then the thin band that goes on top. It all comes together. Really sweet.
Can you show us the top of the cap? Is there anything?
Yeah, we're going to go to that in a minute. Yeah.
Okay. It's
Here
beautiful.
we go. Here's the top.
Okay.
Plain. Here's the bottom. And then it's an unscrewed cap. I'm doing the review. No. So, and here is the flex nib.
Ooh.
And in my opinion, I think it's pretty darn good. So it's got a nice grip section as well on it. And then we'll just open the barrel up. This is one gorgeous pen. I mean, for the real. And we're going to get to the specifics on this pen in a minute. And pull out converter and just push it right back in. So now, what I like for you to do, Kevin, is talk about this pen, how it's made, the material, give the little details on it so people will know, because they're going to be asking for sure.
Yeah, the Urushi art version has been a little bit of an adventure for me as well, because I do not consider myself an expert on like that maki Japanese stuff, right. But it's not maki, right? So maki is multi-layers, all hand painted, takes forever to dry. Again, I'm not an expert on the process. So this one is Urushi art, right? It uses an Urushi lacquer. It's not all hand done, right? So that some of the dragon work is paper inlays. So it's got some paper inlays, then it's got some hand painting, and then it's coated in that Urushi lacquer is basically how that's made. It's not as hard as the maki version. It's pretty durable, but I do not recommend posting these pens because you're eventually gonna scratch that paint that's at the base where you would post it. So that's a snapshot of how they're made.
And the pen goes for how much? What?
Oh my goodness, you think I'd remember off the top of my head? I think those are 135. Is that right?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. Now, when I saw this pen, I really thought about the marquee pen, pilot, sailor type of pens. But really, when you get this pen, no exaggeration, either you're going to feel the pattern in your hand, you're going to feel it, which is really awesome to the touch as well. And then you're going to see these colors just pop in front of you, because you know, when we're doing it on here, it doesn't really bring the beautiful colors, the gold, the blacks, the whites, the reds, all that. That's all involved, the detail that's involved in this fountain pen. It's just done really a superb job. Whoever made the pen, really, it's slick. And there's 3 other patterns that that are available. The dragon, and what are the other 2? Kevin?
That one's a red dragon. Then there's a black dragon. There's a blue dragon. There's a red phoenix. There's one called green Genji that's green with some gold spots, and then black clouds. It's black with some gold spots.
Okay, so let me do this for a minute. So the nibs that'll fit this are what? Go ahead, extra fine. And this right here is, you just, what I like about this is you're just gonna twist that little jewel out, and it comes right out, and I'll send it back to you busted. Don't get mad. No, I'm kidding. No. He said, you just bought a pen. Thank you, Kev. So anyway, now tell us about how long do you think it takes to make this pen? Is it machine, you think, done, or hand done, or what done?
Oh, you mean the pen body? Yeah, they're definitely using machines on the pen body. That's not a handmade pen. Now, obviously, the artwork is, they're hand laying that paperwork and then hand painting it and putting the lacquer on. That's not a machine process.
That is really beautiful. Guys, you have any comments right now on this pen? Speak them up.
Beautiful.
Any comments to Kevin right now about anything?
That is amazing. Oh my gosh. I mean, and I take it that's a steel nib on there, sir?
It is a steel nib. That's correct.
That's still a good price though for a steel nib and that beautiful design. Man,
excellent price. Yeah. Who else? Norm, you had a question?
Yeah. Did I hear right? Is there 3 different designs to choose from on the barrel of that pen, or is that it?
No, there's actually 6 different designs. He's holding the red dragon version. Larry is. There's a black dragon, very similar to that one, but it's a black dragon. There's a blue dragon that I think I'm out of that one right now. I'm trying to have more produced, but COVID gets in the way of everything, right? There's a red phoenix. So instead of a dragon, that one has a phoenix on it. Then there's green Genji and black clouds, which are 2 similar pens. One's got more of a green barrel, one more of a black barrel.
And there's photos of that on your website or something, is
Yeah,
there?
that's correct. Yeah, so if you look at the Tenoshi, this is the pen is Tenoshi. The version is the Arushi art. So if you look that up on our website, then you'll be able to see all the different versions there.
Gorgeous fountain pen. It really is. It's stunning, folks. I'm telling you, it's stunning. It's like, wow, it pops. So now, do you ship overseas, Kevin? People have asked.
We do. I've always meant to put up a map in the office and just put a pin in it for every different, city or country we ship to. But yeah, I've shipped to probably about every country you could name besides North Korea. Yeah.
Now, Kevin and I have been together doing this since 2015, believe it or not. We've come a long way. And
Yes,
I've seen Kevin actually grow and grow and grow. Now, Kevin, with that said, you've got other lines of pens you carry now, pens and paper. Tell us about this.
Yeah, so we don't just have our just our own pens. I'm not an extensive supplier, but we carry some Pilot stuff, sell a lot of TWSBI stuff. Again, since the ethos of our store is all sort of the more affordable end of things, most of what I carry is geared towards that, right? So I've got Kaweco. It's an overall affordable pen line. I carry TWSBI. Carry a little bit of Pilot, but again, focus more on the more affordable side of things. Also carry some Indian brands you've probably never heard of. You could find a brand called Camlin on our website, or Conrite or Click, or some handmade pens that are a little more expensive, but not in the context of being handmade, right?
Okay, right there. Stop.
Yep.
Right there. On those 3 pens you mentioned, tell us about them, because a lot of people are asking, what are those? I have no idea. Where did you get the names? Where did they come from? What?
Are you talking about the Indian brands that I was mentioning?
The Indian brands, yeah.
Indian brands are interesting, especially going back historically, right? Like historically, India, didn't have the best national distribution center. And so what you'd have, and most of these companies have closed, I got to experience some of them back in the early days. And now most of them, the doors have closed. But every different state you'd go to, there'd be 2 or 3 pen manufacturers. And they were the pen suppliers at fountain pen manufacturers, right? Because that's what everybody was using. Anybody who's 25 or younger, they were using fountain pens in school when they were I'm sorry, 25 or older, they were using fountain pens when they were in school. They don't do that anymore, but right. So there's this mass demand, right? You got 1 billion people and every kid needs a fountain pen, right? So there was all of these local manufacturers for fountain pens. So I have no idea if you would have added up all the different Indian pen brands, back in, 1970, I don't know how many it would be, but there was manufacturers everywhere. Now, few of them are still around. In fact, Camlin's one of the bigger ones, but they actually got bought by, I can't remember if it was a Japanese company or a Taiwanese company a few years ago. So they're still manufactured in India, but not actually even India owned anymore. So Camlin pens, that's a big brand that's still around. I mentioned Conrite. They're still making pens in India. There's some of the handmade manufacturers, right? There's a guy in South India making Guider, and they make them by hand, and Ranga is like that. And there's a few other brands, Rotnam Sum or Gamma, I think, is still making pens. We used to carry their stuff. We don't anymore. So there really aren't a whole lot of Indian manufacturers left, to be honest, because the market dried up so much. The ones that are left are the ones that were big enough to really not just sell their own brand, but more try to be suppliers for other pen manufacturers.
On your feed, are they plastic, ebonite, and tell the folks the difference, because the questions were asked and I've answered it, but I'll let you answer it again. What's the difference between using a plastic feed and an ebonite feed? Remember, ebonite is wet. Plastic is not as wet as an ebonite. So you go ahead and break it down for them.
Yeah, that's the biggest difference. We can, and that's one of the reasons I think we've had so much success with the Flex Nib is, that was one of the biggest parts of the development of these products is trying to get the right channel on those ebonite feeds. Like if you've ever used it, not to knock Noodlers, they're a great company, but like if you've ever used an Ahab or whatever, they railroad really quickly. I actually contacted Nathan back in the day and made the suggestion, hey, if you'd actually widen that channel out to about 1.5 millimeters, as opposed to what you've got it at, then you're going to get a whole lot better. You're going to have a better result. I never heard back from him, but I was just trying to be friendly. Not that he was rude about it or anything either, but anyway, so you can put a wider feed or ink channel on those ebonite feeds and get a whole lot more ink flowing down. Now it's a double-edged sword, right? Those ebonite feeds also don't have as many fins as the plastic feeds do. And so, boy, you can slosh ink everywhere with those suckers. I mean, don't stick it in a backpack or the bottom of a purse, they'll leak everywhere. But to really be able to keep up with flexing, and generally when I build something, that's what I'm focusing on. Can this keep up with our Flex Nibs? It's not normally very complicated to make something that'll keep up with a standard fine or medium, right? There's no nib bouncing off a feed. There's no, not as big a capillary action issue going on there. So you're right. That is the biggest difference. If you want to put something in the bottom of your purse, get something with a plastic feed. If you're going to keep it on your desk, but you're really open, you're wanting to do some flexing, you're wanting a really wet flow, then ebonite feed is the way to go. And now those two are never, let me just say this question all the time. Hey, I got a Jinhao X750 and I want to put your Ultraflex nib and feed combo on it. Well, the nib will fit on that particular pen, not all pens, but that particular pen, the nib will fit, the feed will not. Ebonite feeds and plastic feeds are virtually never interchangeable, right? A plastic feed has that little tail on the end that you can use with a converter cartridge. Ebonite feeds don't have that tail. Just the whole intersection, the grip section design that would hold a plastic feed and ebonite feed are just very different, and they're not interchangeable.
Well, there you have it. Came from the master. Okay.
Looked like Norm had a question. You got a question over there, Norm? I guess you're the moderator, Larry. My bad.
Oh, no.
Thank you.
I didn't even see it, but go ahead, Norm.
Thank you. Yeah, you were talking about fins on feeds, Kevin, and I've got a whole range of new and older pens, and some of the older pens have got no fins at all on the bottom of the feed, and they work just fine.
Sentinel Parker.
Could you please say a little bit of information on the function of the fins particularly on the bottom of the feed? Because I've often wondered that.
Yeah, they hold on to ink. That's their purpose, right? So, and that's the reason the ebonite feeds are more likely to slosh the ink. You know, they're putting out more ink through the ink channel, but they're also less equipped to hold on to the ink, right? And so there's more surface area. When you put those fins in a feed, you're creating a ton more surface area and little channels for that ink to hold on to, as opposed to being able to drip off, right? So that's the main purpose of all of those. All the stuff you see on the bottom of the feed, it's really not about ink flow as much as, you know, preventing the ink from dripping off of the feed.
Thank you.
Now, another thing I want to point out while we're all talking about the nibs, there is complaints that the Flex and Ultraflex railroad. And I say, sure, it's going to railroad like any other pen will when you go too fast with it. You can't go fast when you're doing that. And I've showed in the reviews that you have to take your time. And you want to be careful when you do it. And when you go down on that nib with those time, you don't want them to go like that. Bam, bam, because you're going to disalign them. Then you're going to be messed up. But take your time when you're doing it on that downstroke. Take your time. Because some people are going, and they want it fast, and then it railroad. Oh, the nib's no good. They suck. They all this bad, blah, blah. Here we go. Oh, it's not the nib. It's the individual working with the pen. So, what's your take on that, Kevin?
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, there's two things going on there, or there's a few things going on there. One, not every ink is good for flexing, right? Like I try to tell people, anything that has a special quality, for the most part, it's best to keep it out of a flex pen. Now, you might try it and it might work, but you know, don't complain to me that your shimmering ink or your sheening ink or your quick drying ink or your lubricated ink or, you know, whatever special property comes before the word ink, it might not work very well in a flex pen. And that's, again, you're going back to that capillary action, right? You've got that ink has to maintain surface tension between the nib and feed as they're constantly bouncing off of each other. And a quick drying ink's not going to do that. Generally speaking, a lubricated ink's not going to do that. Sometimes a sheening ink isn't going to do that. Now, sometimes they will. Feel free to try it. But so one, you've got the ink, right? You've also got how wet is the feed. We talked about that already, right? A plastic feed is going to railroad more quickly than an ebonite feed. Then you also have it, and you mentioned the quickness of the writing. Sometimes that's not just, you know, a fountain pen is all about air in and ink out, right? If no air can get in, no ink's going to come out. And if too much air gets in, then too much ink is going to come out. That's just the way it works, right? It's like if you hold your finger over a straw, you know, you dip your straw down in your Coke and you hold your finger on it and you can pick it up and nothing's coming out. Well, if you let your finger off, everything comes out, right? And so a fountain pen is all about letting just the right amount of air in so that just the right amount of ink can get out. Well, that's not that difficult on a fine nib pen because it's a constant amount of air, right? But on a flex pen, you're saying, hey, I'm writing a fine line right now. I need only a little bit of air in there. Oh, I'm writing a flex line. And so what you can do is actually create an airlock inside the pen because you're letting ink out of that pen so quickly that it's faster than air can get back in. And that's one of your bigger deals is a lot of times when you're railroading like that, you're just going to have to wait for the airflow to catch up to the nib.
On your nibs selection, go ahead and, if you don't mind, name all the sizes of nibs you have, and do the nibs fit all your line of pens or only certain pens?
Great question. So we make an extra fine, a fine, a medium, a broad, a 1 millimeter stub. It's a little finer than most of the 1.1s you find out there. And we do put tipping on our stubs. So there's sort of all stubs used to be tipped and now nobody tips their stubs. So ours are a little bit like the older stubs. We make a standard flex. We make the Ultraflex. Then you mentioned the 14 karat gold nibs. I only have fine, medium, and flex in those. And then there's also the two different sizes of nibs, right? There's 5.5 size nibs and there's 6 size nibs. By the way, that's, you know, almost a disclaimer. I just want to tell the world those numbers mean nothing, right? Just because one manufacturer says they make a number 6 size nib and I say I make a number 6 size nib, it means nothing, right? There's different steel thicknesses, there's different shoulder or base width, there's different curvature of the tines to meet the feed. But that's what we call them, a 5.5 and a 6. Not all the nibs are going to fit all the pins, right? Especially because there's 2 different sizes, right? So a pin that takes a number 5.5 size nib is not going to take a number 6 size nib. It's just the nature of the beast. It's a much larger, physically larger nib, right? Yeah. So this pin you're holding has a number 6 nib in it. Can't put a 5.5 size, versus the quick draw that I'm holding there. It's got the 5.5 size. It's not going to take a 6 size. Now, within the same size, normally there is some swappability. But again, I've already said if you're using ebonite feed, some tinkering and some heat setting might be needed.
You said that earlier, I think you said something about you grind nibs. You said something about grinding. I wasn't sure what you said. I'm wondering if you do grind, if you do anything with Architect nibs.
I do. Well, yeah, I said grind. I don't mean tipping grind. So we actually do grind out the Ultraflex.
Okay.
That's the manual. And so we grind them and polish them.
Yeah. Okay.
Wow. Okay. And so I see you have the whole family together now doing stuff, putting pins together, right?
We do. The kids don't help me quite as much as they used to because, boy, they get all busy with sports. But I'm like, man, I'm glad the summer's coming because now you're out of school and you can come up to the shop and help me out more. So, yeah, we do still do a lot of stuff as a family. I already mentioned, picking the names and all that kind of stuff.
Okay, here's one for you. Let's talk about, you have pin rolls, right? Pin cases,
That's right.
pin rolls. How did that came to be and what you got? Tell us.
Yeah, so I work with manufacturer in India to make those. They are leather, so you mentioned the rolls. I've got 3 different versions. I've got a single pin sort of leather sleeve, and then a little case that'll hold 2 pins. And then you mentioned the roll, right? So it's a larger one that'll hold all 6. Yeah. I do love this product. I was really proud that we were able to make this one just because as far as a leather pin pouch goes, it's pretty darn affordable. This one, we put a pouch on these so you can sort of put your pins and they'll be protected with the pouch, but then we left the flap. I'm sorry, I said pouch, I meant flap. Put a flap over these 4 and then left the flap off of these 2. Right. And the idea there is you can put a longer pin, right? That could even stick up to the very top, of the pin roll.
Now, is that the newer model? I have the first one that you first come out with. Is that different than this one?
Does yours have this stamp on it?
No.
Okay, so you've got the older model.
Okay.
We've moved through, I think, about 3 different manufacturers. That's always an interesting aspect of doing this, right? Is trying to get reliable manufacturers, because what'll happen is you'll get a manufacturer will give you a good first batch, right? And you order that second batch and you're like, this isn't the same quality as the first batch, And so on the third batch, you're like, I'm done with you. Let me find somebody new. And I've been very happy with this manufacturer that we've been using for the last few years because I'm getting consistent stuff. But
are you planning on making any other pin cases?
I back in the day had the those A5 notebook pouches in leather, right. And I haven't had those in years, and I haven't had my newer manufacturer build those. So I am hoping with my next order to go ahead and have him add those back because I really did like those. We've got the jute version, but the leather version is a little classier. So I am hoping to add those back in. That won't actually be a new product, but it'll be something we haven't had in a while that we're hoping to add back into the lineup.
All right, now let's go to inks. Tell us about how you got started and that, who makes them, what?
Yeah, so originally, we had 3 colors of FPR ink. In the beginning, we decided to do ink, and I'll tell you exactly where they come from. They come from the same manufacturer that makes Cross ink. Cross does not make their own ink. Therefore, buying the FPR, it's now called Classic Blue, Classic Black, and Blue Black, and those are the only colors that we had of FPR ink in the day. I am pretty darn sure it has to be the exact same ink that Cross is selling. I can't imagine that they're making a different formula for me than they're making for Cross, as small as I am. So that's sort of an interesting fun fact. The black, the Classic Black, Classic Blue, and Blue Black are, they have to be Cross's formula. And I was trying to figure out how to expand to different colors. So all the other colors are not made by that company. And I was talking to different manufacturers. I don't know if you know, what's it, Papier Plume and down in New Orleans, you know, how are you guys making your ink and how can I maybe get into that? And anyway, I was actually had some samples sent to me by a guy who sort of started out similar to just small family business, you know, hey, got into fountain pens and I'm a chemist and my son suggested I make ink and we put together this ink recipe and have been really impressed with how it worked and had loved to send you some samples to look at. And I was really impressed and liked the fact that it was just another small family business and that's how they got into the whole thing. And said, you know, if you'd be willing to work together, I'd love to come up with some color mixtures and, you know, we can package this under the FPR brand and you can be the chemist and the expert and, you know, I'll say, hey, let's come up with an awesome purple, you know, and, you know, so it sort of started off with, you know, he sent me whatever the primary colors are, right? Your red and your blue and your yellow. And, you know, we've got pipettes out, you know, 5 drops of blue and 3 drops of the, you know, and, oh, that's a cool color. Let's, you know, so that's where the inks came from. There's a family in Colorado that he's a chemist and as sort of a side hustle, he and his son manufacture our ink for us.
So, okay, you got, I'm sorry, go ahead, John. You're on mute.
Sorry, I just want to, I got to go now, Larry. I just want to say thank you.
Okay.
It's been an honor. You take care, Kevin. All you take care. All right. You know,
Take care, my brother.
We're getting through this, man. You take care.
Later.
Good vacation, John.
You too. Bye.
What's up?
Kevin, so the inks, you have a firecracker red, delicious. Love it. It just
Okay, I'll cover
it
it.
pops. Then you have a green.
I'm on my way in anyway.
nice
I'm
green.
just watching.
You have a blue. Love
Yeah.
that blue, that new
Show
blue you got.
about-
It just kicks. So you have a lot.
But
You
I'll
got
be there.
watercraft ink,
I'll be there.
you have a lot of,
copy.
I think I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I don't have the black yet, but all the colors now are really sweet. You know, I was impressed with it. You've come a long way on ink as well.
Yeah, I've been pleased with that as well. Again, I also love that it's a small family business, but you know, we got to pick the ink colors ourselves, which is fun. That Mardi Gras is particularly awesome. You know, it's funny, we decided to make a purple. And so I put together a mixture that I thought would be good for purple. And, you know, he sent me the first batch of it and I'm swabbing it and we were going to pick a purple name for the ink. And I started really swabbing it heavier and realized, oh my goodness, this thing's, you know, I'd just been writing with it like in a fine nib pen. I was like, this thing is sheening like crazy. Didn't even intend to create a sheening ink, nor do I have any idea why it happens. I even contacted the chemist and I'm like, why do you think the sheen happened? He's like, well, it could be this, it could be that. So the purple one's actually sheening, which is kind of cool. That was an accident. I'm trying to replicate the accident. I just don't know how to do it.
So do you have any other inks planned on coming out? Or?
I don't have anything in the works right now, but ironically, you know, you mentioned that. I was thinking just today, hey, you know, I've just been busy the last few months. It's time for us to put together. So if you got any color suggestions, I'm open to hearing them. It's time for us to go ahead and launch a new color. The manufacturer was also dealing with some health issues, so I was trying to lay off on him as far as working him too hard recently. But I think he's doing better, and it's time for us to come up with a new color.
Turquoise?
Oh, turquoise. I'm writing it down.
Fuchsia.
Here we go. Come on, gang, feed it to him.
Fuchsia. Oh, I don't know.
Fuchsia
if
would
I
be
can
Well,
nice.
get myself
you
to
got
do
something,
that.
Will.
Red orange.
Red orange. All
That-
right.
The tangerine's a little red orange. I
Yeah.
would define the tangerine as kind of a reddish
Yeah,
orange.
I would go that. Anybody else? Speak it up. Dun, dun, dun. Everybody is silent. Go ahead, Norm. You're on silent. And he's off.
Yeah, here I am. Yeah, look, I don't know your black ink, so I might be saying the obvious or talking about something nothing here. But one of the things with blacks is they're often a dark grey, and it's really hard to get a decent black. So my suggestion, for what it's worth, is nothing more than a decent black. If you know, and as I said, I don't know your existing black at all.
Yeah, no, that means you need to get a ball of our black. Actually, our black ink is my favorite black that we sell. Now, although my other might have a color of dye mine I like better than this blue or whatever, and it's specifically because it is a pitch black. You know, like I'm a you know, Noodler's Heart of Darkness type. You know, if you're going to write in black, it should be black. It should never look gray. It should
Right.
absorb all of the colors of the spectrum all at the same time and be black. So yeah, it is a very black ink, and maybe you should try it out.
Thank you. Yep. Thank you.
All right. Does anybody have any questions for Kevin? Now is the time, or forever hold your peace. And whoever watches this video out there in video world, email Kevin. Don't email me. Email Kevin. He's the man that will answer your questions, because I will just butcher it.
Alan, we don't have a permanent ink. I would probably hesitate to even try to make a foray into that, because I don't know of a permanent ink that performs particularly well in flex pens, except for Noodler's ink. You know, their bulletproof ink will perform great, and they're permanent in a different way, right? It's because of that cellulose reaction. Unless I was doing something like that, I would try to stay away from it, because people come to us for flex pens. And so it's like, I almost don't even want to carry an ink that they could buy and put that together and go, hey, this, you know, just never works. I'm not saying I wouldn't consider it, but no, we don't have any permanent inks presently.
Okay, so you will be at the Dallas Pen Show this year?
I am planning on going to the Dallas Pen Show. I haven't actually registered for a table yet. I did read, you know, a couple weeks ago that it sounds like it's actually going on. Is that what you're hearing too, Larry?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm sure that I will go ahead and have a table at the Dallas Pen Show.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm saying yay.
What I'm not hearing yet is there going to be any type of restrictions as far as social distancing, mask? I haven't heard anything about that yet.
Yeah, and maybe I need to hear that as well. I'm not getting political or anything. I personally am way done with the mask thing. So if they're throwing a mask on me, I don't know.
I'd love to see you with a mask standing there. Oh,
yeah. Most people would rather see me with a mask. That's what my wife tells me.
So are all the kids going to help you?
Yeah, you know, every year I've had at least one of them there. Now my youngest and my oldest boys fight over, you know, who it's going to be. So I normally try to take one on Friday and maybe let them ditch a little school, and one on Saturday.
I would take all of them. That way they could help you unload and load and set up.
Oh, amen to that. Amen to that.
You have a lot of stuff when you go out there, man. It's wow. People would be surprised everything that you have on those tables. A lot. And those big signs that you put up, remember? Like, wow.
Well, don't pub it too much. Every pen show I go to, I leave and I'm like, man, next year I'm bringing less stuff. You know, I don't. So when I go this year, I'm going to be bringing less stuff than last time.
He's going to have a card table with a few pens on the card table.
Yeah. I almost feel like let me just bring like 100 pens, and it's like when they're gone, I'm just leaving. You know, actually, when it's gone, I get to go enjoy the rest of the pen show. That's
yeah, and then blow all the money you made on pens.
On pens, yeah.
And then when you go home, the wife's going to say, "Well, how much did we make?" Well, honey, we made this much. Great, but
let me tell you what I saved buying these pens. You know?
Yeah, I bought these pens, huh? Yep. So okay, so. All right. So, back to I think one of the questions I said earlier on a new pen. How does all this come to be? Because I don't know until I actually see it on Facebook. Bam, he's out with a new pen. Well, yeah, that one. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so this is the new FPR Ambassador.
That's a new one? Okay.
This is brand new, and this is actually with a manufacturer we've never used before.
Okay, hold that up. Frank, can you make a big screenshot of that pen real quick, Frank? Go ahead and cap it if you don't mind.
Yeah, so I mentioned, you know, wanting to get into some more metal bodied stuff. We literally launched this, like last week?
Okay.
So it's metal body, just sort of your classic, you know, design, black and chrome. Got a, you know, FPR in the clip there. This camera is not ideal. It's got our logo, the one with the logo. This was the prototype. I got the logo on the.
Wow, okay. Yes. That's cool.
Yeah, I thought that was a cool little addition. This one is a plastic feed pen, but you know, a lot of times what I've found, by the way, is when you're trying to get good flow on a pen with a plastic feed, you basically want that feed and nib in there as with as much extra space as possible. So anytime you're installing a pin, you're like, man, I'm really forcing this nib and feed in here. There's not a lot of extra space. You're probably not going to get very good flow. So we did build this pin to have really good flow with the, again, I've mentioned, I try to build everything around the flex nib. So it's a plastic feed, but it keeps up surprisingly well with the flexing. And this one's cartridge converter, right? Standard international cartridge, standard international converter.
Okay, so that's already out or going to be out?
No, it's already out. I launched it. Has it been 2 weeks yet? I'm not sure.
Wow. Okay. How much is that one?
This one starts at 44. If you get an extra fine or medium nib, if you get a broad stub or flex, it'll add $3. Or if you add the Ultraflex, then it's $13 extra.
Yeah, broad. Yeah. I'm into broad, medium now. So I don't know. I just flicker from one side to the other. I don't know. That's a boss looking pin there. What's the weight on that one, Kevin? You know,
32 grams, I think, which is, you know, a little over an ounce. Like
that's probably, let's see, I think the Jinhao 149 is what, 40 some odd G's on it, I think. So that has a little bit of weight to that.
It has a little, it's the heaviest FPR pen. Again, most of our stuff's acrylic and ebonite, so it doesn't have as much weight. So the, you know, the quick draw that came out a couple months ago was our heaviest pen at 22 grams. You know, the Ambassador now is our heaviest pen at 30. What do I have on the website? It's right around 30 grams. I can't remember the specific.
Okay. Okay. All right, folks. Any other questions? Okay, so I got one for you. A believe it or not question. I've got 3 emails, 2 comments about it. They said, talk to FPR and ask him when is he or will he consider, one of the 2 that I forgot, to carry the Magna Carta fountain pen.
All right. Well, I'm open to considering just about anything. Sometimes it's a matter of getting hold of finding out where the distributor is.
India, and Heron's his name. And yes, I have a few of his pens. Beautiful, excellent fountain pens. Love them.
He's located in Mumbai.
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
he has 2 shops. Okay. He has Mumbai, and I forgot where the other one is. Okay. On one shop, he does nibs only, which you can buy. And he has the other one, the factory that makes the pens. So, and he does the ebonite feed that is a monster, beautiful ebonite feed that is just a wet, beautiful rider. And his plastic nibs are just as nice. They're sweet pens. Yeah. I've done 3 reviews. Now he sent me a couple of pens that have got lost in the mail, so he's got to resend them again. So he done the tracking and all that, but he's got some beautiful pens and they're affordable as well. So I'm going to leave that with you. So everybody that has asked a question, I've sent your question to Mr. Kevin. There, I've said it now. All right. Before we go, folks, any other question that you want to ask Kevin? How pens made again, or Deborah, anything?
Well, I want to thank him for being here with us. This was great.
Yeah, thank you. I'm glad I could do it.
You know, I've been trying like a madman to get this guy on here. I mean, like a madman, you know? I said, Kevin, got to get you on. Okay, yeah. You know,
I watched his videos from a few years ago. Gosh, yeah. I've got a few.
Kevin got to get you on.
ones.
Kevin got to get you on. Kevin got to get you. You know, Kevin just blows me away. Yeah, whatever. Kevin, you don't understand. People want to see you. People want to hear you.
Here.
Yeah. So finally, this man comes on. You know, I'm busy doing that. I'm busy. Okay, we're gonna do it. Then he couldn't make it for whatever reason. Family things come up. I can dig it. So okay, then people say,
Well,
"What happened to Kevin?"
Thank you for your time, Kevin. We really
Absolutely. Part of the deal is we finally hired our first employee that doesn't have the same last name that I have. So, man, when you were talking to me at the end of the year, I was recovering from like Black Friday and, you know, then into January and finally got somebody hired in February. And it makes life a lot easier. And I'm happy I got a little extra time now.
So that's the young girl you have working for you, right? Oh, go ahead.
Yeah.
Will.
Yeah.
Well,
Her name's Jenna.
Oh, I just want to tell Kevin I am an FPR fan.
There you go.
Love the Ultraflex. It does better than I do. And but for journaling, this 1 millimeter tip nib you have I love it.
Awesome.
It does
Glad
a
to hear
very good
that.
job for me for journaling. So yeah, I love your pens. Thank you, and keep up the good work, man. Appreciate it.
Thanks, brother. I appreciate the encouragement.
Well, I'm gonna have to get my hands on that ambassador with a broad nib. Yeah.
All right, I can send one. I'll send one your way.
That looks one bad jam. Then that ambassador, that looks sharp.
Oh, that 1 millimeter nib that's tipped. I don't know anybody else that has a tipped 1 millimeter, and I love it for journaling. It does great.
Well, I'm going to be reviewing this pen probably either Sunday or Monday, and then I'll try to send it back to Kevin before he has a hemorrhoid attack or something. And I don't want him to get upset at me. So you know how pen people are; they get pretty upset and uptight. I don't want that.
Hey, Larry, when we come to Fuzzies on Sunday, bring that pen with you.
I will. Good idea. Yes. I am the salesman for FPR. Yeah.
I like it.
Yes. So before we go, Kevin does have discount already on an affordable fountain pen, for real. So Kevin, what are your discounts?
Well, if you're watching the Larry Pen channel, you can type in Larry 15 and get a 15% off discount. Now we run sales now and then, but at any point you go on and get a 15% discount off your order. Larry 15. There you go. Franco just typed it there.
There it is.
Larry 15 and get a 15% off discount.
I bet you a pen like this, once Frank sees it, he's going to order one. Watch. You wait and see. You wait and see. And just say, dang. Larry, I still want my pen back. Okay.
Kevin, this is Mr. Announcer. I promise I will get the pen back to you.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, I try to take away his pens. I'm a hoarder. I just can't help it. I just can't help it. Oh, but anyway, all right. Anything else before we split?
Well, I guess one thing that you kind of touched on a little bit there, Kevin, how much has COVID impacted your manufacturers? I've got people that work for me in Chennai down in the south and Noida up in the north. And we've had employees who are sick. We've had employees who have lost family members. How much has it had an impact upon the people you work with?
Yeah, it's had a lot of impact, and gosh, be praying for the people of India. They've been hit again the last, couple of months. I personally feel like I just dodged a bullet, praise Jesus, whatever. I had placed a large order with my manufacturers just before the lockdown happened last year, and then was almost out of everything once I was finally able to get restocked. And if the chips hadn't fallen in that order, boy, I would have been in trouble. But it had a huge impact on my manufacturers in terms of having to shut down their factories. And then, of course, they're using raw material from another factory, right? If you're building an ebonite pen, you're probably not making the ebonite rods yourself. You're buying them from somewhere else, and the ebonite rod factory is shut down. And it's continued to have an impact. I know that the Guider factory and the Ranga factory are presently shut down. I think the ones surrounding the North India, area have still been open, but yeah, COVID has had a huge impact on India.
Thanks.
All right. Any other questions? That's it. Well, Kevin, I guess we're going to say thank you for joining us today. And, I think you were really a big help on answering a lot of these questions people have been asking. And now they know, Kevin, now they know, how his pens are made, where they're made, what they do. They know they're affordable. They know about the ink. They know about your pouches. They know about the other line of pen. They know about this Urishi pen that you just put out that is really fountain. People buy this pen. This is a dynamite pen. This is really, wait till you see it, Frank. Wait till you see it. Yeah. Trust me, you'll end up buying it. So anyway, broad nib, well into 1.0. nib? Is that right? Will?
Oh, I love it's a 1 millimeter,
1 millimeter. Okay.
but it's not a stub. It's tipped,
Okay.
and it's awesome. I love it. Yeah.
Huh. And Deborah, what kind of nib are you into?
Flex.
Lisa, Liz, you're on mute.
Oh yeah, I know. Well, Japanese medium, otherwise a fine.
Okay. Norm.
Well, I'm pretty boring. Most of my stuff is just plain old medium, but I do love the stubs. A tip stub is brilliant if you can get it. But,
Yeah, I know I have bought a gold nib from Kevin, the flex nib, I believe, as well. So all are good. You know, I've tried the fine nibs, mediums, broads. I don't know if I tried the 1.0 tip. I'm sure I have. But anyway, all right. Any other questions before we go?
Larry,
Yes, sir.
I would consider that 1 millimeter tipped nib a double broad.
A double
And-
broad.
and Kevin, what do you think? Is that about what you would consider it?
You know, we market it as a stub. You know, if you look at it under a loop, it's got that stub angle to it because it's such a fine stub. It is a lot more subtle than your average stub out there, right? So you know, if you write vertically with it versus perfectly horizontally, you're going to see some line variation for sure. But in a normal writing, I do agree it can often appear more as a double broad than really a stub.
Really? Wow, that's awesome. Can that nib be interchangeable with the broad nib on the Ambassador?
Yes.
Wow.
No, Kevin, I'm talking about the one that's tipped.
Yeah, the 1.1. I mean, sorry, the 1.0.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, great nib. I love it.
Well, see, I've learned something new. Wow, Kevin, you have so much stuff going on. Huh? All right, folks. I think everybody's ready to go. So, Kevin, really, I appreciate you, man, for coming on, taking the time, and we'll talk to you later, Kevin. All right, guys. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, guys. Good night.
All right.
Bye-bye.